and welcome to the special edition of World Today. We are here with a panel of experts, in-house experts, to discuss one thing and one thing alone. How is India going to take on Pakistan? There are various scenarios that we are looking at, from taking out particular terrorists to taking out or degrading the Pakistani army, the diplomatic solutions, military solutions. What is India going to do, and what could that mean in terms of ladder of escalation? I'm being joined to discuss that and more by Ankit Kumar. He is the Editor-OSINT, which is open source intelligence here at the India Today Group. I'm also being joined by Group Editorial Director Publishing, Raj Chengappa of the India Today magazine, and Gaurav Sawant, Managing Editor, India Today TV. We will be discussing various scenarios, beginning with what if? What if India takes out the man responsible for Pahalgam terror attacks? That's Hafiz Saeed, Lashkar-e-Taiba. Ankit Kumar will explain what that could mean for India and what could the response be by Pakistan. So Ankit, tell us what the scenario is going to look like if India takes out the man responsible, that is Hafiz Saeed.
Well, Geeta, before we talk about what future scenarios could hold, let's go back to the past, right? There has been a past assassination attempt on Saeed, also on Masood Azhar. Both of them actually managed to survive. So whoever did this, the next person taking the calls, pushing that button, will have to keep certain things in mind, right? So the traditional routes we know will not work, because it failed in June 2021 against Saeed. There was an explosion at Johar town, Hafiz Saeed's residence. He survived. Remember, in 2019 April in Peshawar there was a blast. Masood Azhar managed to survive. So those traditional routes will not work. Technology will have to be used extensively. UAVs, satellite linkages, all these things. You know, the era of physically identifying your target, that is gone. We are in May 2025. This is not May 2011. What happened in 2011? Osama bin Laden was targeted by the US Navy SEALs, but that was a physical contact based operation. The new pattern will have to follow the Israeli template. Remember what happened in Iran, right? So a lot of use of technology, maybe UAVs, satellite communications, the identification in this day and age of AI. AI we know is being used for identification of targets. Those days of identifying your targets physically, that is gone.
Very interesting. America could do it in 2011 with Osama bin Laden, Raj Chengappa, but we are looking at a time where Ankit says you need technology. Is it in the realm of possibility? Can this really be done, or are we looking at a ladder of escalation that will be unimaginable for India?
It depends where Hafiz Saeed is going to be, if that's the target. And sure, you can do, and that's probably the best option, because the escalation ladder will not be that much. If you got a clean strike, he's staying in a civilian place and you are able to identify and do it. But from what we can see, they already know that this is going to be, they've already guessed that we are going to hit one of these guys, right? That would be the easiest way for India to give a fitting riposte. But here I think you have to watch out for one thing. If you see what happened in 2016 in Uri, as well as 2019, we only hit camps. We did not hit Pakistani establishment institutions of any kind. The moment you hit any of them, and supposing Hafiz Saeed happens to be in one of the units or whatever it is, that is an act of war in Pakistan's mind. So your escalation ladder goes very rapidly up. So if you've got the kind of intelligence, we don't know whether we have it, wish we do, like the way Israel does. Are you getting the support of America? Are you getting the support of Israel? If you are, then your tech int is going to be great, technical intelligence. And then you can identify it. The next thing is, what will you use to strike it? Do you have the kind of precision missiles? Do you have the ones that really pinpoint? If you have that, that's great. So I think it's the best option because it's a covert option. I don't think you can attempt what they were trying to do with Osama bin Laden, which is you're going to overfly and
which is
Pakistan.
what Ankit was also saying. No longer the day and age.
Then what happens is that's a declaration of war, right? Even the moment you strike, as I said, any of the Pakistan establishment buildings or facilities, you are going up the escalation ladder, which will not be very easy to control.
We'll consider and look at the other option that Raj has been talking about, which is hitting a military establishment or a military official. But Gaurav, before I come to that, how important is Hafiz Saeed? Is the ladder of escalation going to be that much more if India takes out Hafiz Saeed? Is he that important, or has he become a liability?
Well, he's very important for us. He's a liability perhaps for some in Pakistan. But when I had interviewed Manohar Parrikar, late Manohar Parrikar, Raksha Mantri of India, then he had said, you don't have to send in your troops, you don't have to send in your missiles, you can use their own terrorists to kill their own terrorists. And Namalum Afrad in Pakistan can do what they want. And there's deniability, you've achieved your aim and you haven't committed any of your men. Pakistan will have to just keep wondering whether who's done it. Hafiz Saeed has many enemies and not just in India. Afghanistan is one area that you can harness, and why just Hafiz Saeed? Masood Azhar, Daud Ibrahim Kaskar, everyone knows where he stays in Karachi. There are many targets to take out. You need to have that willpower and you need to have that intelligence and you need to have the money. We have it all. We don't have to commit our men and material.
But do we have the penetration? Do we have people on the ground, Ankit? It's not about sending people in, it's not about sending your forces in like America did, but do we have penetration?
This is where I disagree with Gaurav. You see, we have seen so many incidents. The success rate with targeting tier 2, tier 3 kind of terrorists has been absolute 100%, but every time an attempt has been made on likes of Saeed or Azhar, the success rate is 0. We have not been able to take down Daud, Saeed or Azhar because their level of security, the locations they live in, the kind of parameters they set in, it becomes difficult for an untrained, locally hired goon to shoot down a terror mastermind. For that, you need to have elaborate planning. Technology is going to play a key role, and timing. As Raj said, you cannot conduct these kind of operations when everybody is expecting a bullet, right? So timing is very important. Remember again what Israel did.
They had placed the bombs months in advance.
That came from human intelligence, right?
And you can't use missiles in this. Let's be very clear. The moment you use a missile to get them, supposing like what Israel did, you had a bomb and you were able to trigger it remotely and have a deniability quotient as you were talking about. The moment you get into a missile business, a precision missile to go and whack whoever you want to, you will then escalate it. And let's not forget that Pakistan is a nuclear power. And it does have, unlike us, which is not a disadvantage for us, it does have tactical nuclear missiles. Yeah. So when Pakistan sends a missile, our concern is always going to be, is it conventional, is it tactical? And of course, let's be very clear, if they put even one tactical nuclear missile on us, it will be an all-out nuclear war, and we will not wait for the next one. There will be complete destruction of Pakistan. Okay. So, but we don't want to go down that line. We're very clear, no one wants that. This is, I mean, it would be crazy to get to a nuclear level at any point, but I'm just telling you the risks when you have to deal with such a, let's put it, opponent, adversary, enemy.
This is just a conversation on terrorists taking out assets within Pakistan, such as Hafiz Saeed or Masood Azhar. And Raj Chengappa has already said that Pakistan could go nuclear. Let's just take things a notch higher. Let's talk about the real man behind the Pahalgam terror attack, and that's not Lashkar-e-Taiba or Hafiz Saeed, that's Pakistan Army Chief Asim Munir. Raj, let's talk about the scenario. Let's play it out over here. What happens if India really goes after Asim Munir?
You know, it's not a question of going after him. He is very well protected. It's not going to be easy to knock him down as you would want to do it. I think, let's be very clear, you should not underestimate Asim Munir. Just take a look at his track record. This is a man that was sacked by Imran Khan in 2018. He was the ISI chief. And let's not forget, in 2019, when he gets sacked, just before that, he does have a hand in the Pulwama terror attack, right? And then he shunted off to a corps, which is actually not too bad because that gives him the chance to get into being a chief. And despite the huge resistance that is there when Imran Khan is deposed and doesn't want Asim Munir to succeed as army chief, he's about to retire, he becomes army chief. And then if you see the progression of this, there is a lot of protest that is happening. his core, there's a revolt within the army. He quells the core dissent that is there. In fact, sacks and purges all those guys, puts his loyalists in, goes after Imran Khan. He was sacked because he, possibly that's what they say, is that he was bold enough to tell Imran Khan that his wife was involved in some alleged corruption. And that's what really miffed Imran Khan and had him sacked. So he comes back, gets Imran Khan arrested, puts him in jail, and of course now he's got 14 years of imprisonment. And then if you look at the way he's manipulated the levers of power, he takes the coalition government that comes in is under his control, he gets into the economic aspects, he gets the army into it, and he is now the supremo without toppling the civilian establishment. This man is very clever. And if you take a look at how he's established, he's purged the Supreme Court by having a special amendment, so all the judges that were favorable towards Imran cannot succeed as the Supreme Court Chief Justice. Then he gets himself an extension. Normally army chiefs wait till they're about the final year. He gets it the previous year and gets a 5-year extension and also no age limit, which means he can rule up to 2032 if he wants to. Right now he retires in 2027. So, and then let's look at what he did in the last couple of years. One, he takes on Afghanistan. Afghanistan was their ally, Taliban was their ally. But the moment he finds that TTP, Tehrik-i-Taliban Pakistan, is doing nonsense with him, he goes after the Afghans themselves, which is, he says, I'm going to deport Afghanis there. 150,000 Afghanis are deported. When he's supposed to have great relations with Taliban, he's willing to take them on. Iran does a drone strike to get one of its rebels. He sends a missile across to Iran. This man will retaliate. Let's be very clear. And then let's look at what he did in Jammu and Kashmir. There, if you see, look at the strategy he's sort of unfurled in this one, is that he sends in top-class terrorists. These are better trained.
They are, because they've not been caught.
Great communication. Possibly Chinese is helping them. Their decryption is something that we have not been able to crack. So he hits Jammu during the election, surprises everybody because you don't expect it in places like Riyasi and Doda and other places, and then comes to the valley and again take the targets. Right? He does Pulwama, which is armed forces or police personnel that is there happening. Sorry, in Pulwama it is police personnel, CRPF that's there, and here hits tourists, right? And look at the audacity of that hit. It's definitely planned. It is definitely wanting to build a communal divide that is there, where you see these people asking which is your religion, and then hurts the valley to the point of it. Then you take a look at what he does after that. The moment India says Indus Water Treaty, right? We're going to suspend it. He says Shimla agreement is off. We're going to suspend. So the man is calculating at every step what you're doing. And why does he do that? Because he's got ISI background. Let's not also forget he's one of the rare chiefs who was also Director General Military Intelligence.
Right.
So this man, if you study his psychology, is one, and the other fact that we have to look at is that he sees himself as an Islamist general. Right? I mean, the last time anybody did that, any army chief did that, was Zia-ul-Haq, that was in the 80s, right? 70s to 80s.
Yes.
He sees this as a holy fight. He's I would call him a jihadi general. And jihad not in the word, not in the way that we look at jihad. He thinks that the war that he's fighting is a jihad, and he believes, traditionally all Pakistan generals do that, is that it is the Pakistan army that stands against India from taking over Pakistan. And he thinks it's the Pakistan's army's business to take Kashmir, which is the unfinished business of the partition.
Right.
So this man is indoctrinated in that, and then comes with this zeal that he's coming, because his background is his father's actually gives sermons in a mosque in Rawalpindi, where he's growing up. And let's not forget, his father is actually from Jalandhar. He sort of migrates over there. This man picks up that religious sort of fervor and is known as the Hafizi Quran because he can actually quote the entire Quran by memory and uses that regularly in his speeches. So you're looking at an opponent that is vastly different from the others, a guy who plans his business. So I think what you have to do is to game him, right? Which is, you don't do knee-jerk stuff, because he's not doing that.
Okay.
But this is where we have to look at things. He comes out with radical and surprising things. Here you have to beat that with your own radicalness and let us say irrationality. He's expecting you to do this, this, that. So every planner, I'm sure in India, the military guys who are gaming is saying, what if, what if, what if, and they're going through the whole questions that is there. Then they will make a move, and that move should surprise him because he is making all the moves himself.
Right.
And that's where I think you have to, he's a formidable opponent. I'm not saying he has overreached. Let me be very, very clear. He's made a huge mistake in the valley. I believe so, because of two things. One is that he has turned the valley against him. For the first time, we saw protests that happened.
Yes.
And number two, let's not forget that within Pakistan,
okay,
right, there is a huge economic problem. You try to go to war with India, Pakistan is under tremendous stress. He got over a poly crisis. There was, if you remember, when he took over, the economy's complete collapse. The political establishment was almost, in tatters, and the internal rebellion that was going on. So if you have to, I think he's made a huge mistake because, one, he's overreached, and this confidence comes that he thinks he knows everything, which is actually a disadvantage for a general,
right,
or anyone who's there. And the fact that he has taken on forces within Pakistan which are going to be very, very unhappy with us. And that dissent he tried to convert. The youth in Pakistan are very, very unhappy with what is happening. Not because of him, but because jobs and distress is there. That discontent, he thought he will divert to India, but once he brings the India factor in, all these things that he was, the Baluch rebels where the Jaffa Express,
right,
where the hijack of a train happens, undermines the army.
You mentioned Balochistan, so let's just go across to Gaurav. Gaurav, a very important point that Raj Chengappa makes, I'd like you to respond to that. Can India game Asim Munir? But before that, our third scenario, which Gaurav is going to explain, which is breaking up of Pakistan, ensuring that there is enough civil unrest to create a separate Balochistan, which will completely break the back of the Pakistani establishment. Gaurav, over to you.
So, just on that simple point that you made about Asim Munir being that radical Islamist zealot, so was Zia. A crate of mangoes and Zia's history ended. And that is how these zealots end up. You don't know who will have the next crate of mangoes in his aircraft, in his house, and wherever else. He may be smarter, but the problem with Pakistani generals, including Musharraf, they think tactical. They're unable to think strategic. They're unable to think long term. You look at the history. Musharraf did, a Kargil. He came into Kargil. He didn't have an exit. And the way he had war-gamed it, it didn't happen that way. Similarly with this guy, whoever's done, let's say, the 26/11 Mumbai terror attacks, they lost the narrative on Kashmir. Kargil attack, they lost the narrative on Kashmir. With this, they've lost the narrative on Kashmir. So whatever they wanted, they've not only lost it, and worse, in his case, Indus Waters Treaty, it being held in abeyance, now he can cry till kingdom come. He can cry till kingdom come. He can recite any number of ayats of Quran. He is not getting that water unless India is handed over either Hafiz Saeed, Masood Azhar, or we get what we want.
Which is what?
Well,
are we looking at a scenario, the third scenario of a Pakistan that's...
We don't want radical Islamist terrorists bleeding India. That is for sure. So radical Islamist terrorism has to stop. We don't, care whether he's a Hafiz-e-Quran, good for him. But Hafiz-e-Quran should not mean that he will send terrorists into India, kill Hindus, and India will be okay with it, and India will do galbaiyan with Pakistan, or still have that Aman ki Asha and Pappi Jappi. That has to stop. And I think with this establishment, that is stopping. Pakistan has enough fault lines within, enough fault lines. All we need to do is highlight the atrocities of Pakistan Army in Balochistan, the enforced disappearances, the women who are half widows. Just highlight it at the United Nations. Pakistan's illegal occupation of Balochistan.
But we've been doing that.
In a much bigger way. Make it a national endeavor to highlight Pakistan's atrocities. Our support, yes, the Prime Minister, what he said from the ramparts of the Red Fort was a signal. Now you make that signal world class. What's happening in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, he's fighting the Pashtuns. A sane man would never fight his neighbor and best friend in the manner in which he is. He's in trouble. Can he, whatever he is, can he fight the 770 kilometer long line of control, 3,200 kilometers long of international border, and 2,600 kilometers long of Durand line? Can he do that? India has to do nothing but just watch the way Pakistan's Durand line, when the Durand line burns, when Afghans say we'll take over Peshawar, because Peshawar Afghans consider their territory. Will this man be able to fight on multiple fronts? He has no money, and that is what India's big effort should be, to ensure that he doesn't get the financial, he gets on that financial action task force grey list, he doesn't get the IMF bailout. Bhooke bhajan na hoi Gopala, he may read the Quran, but when he has no money to feed his people, they will not want to read the Quran. They want bed, they want breakfast, lunch and dinner, and that is the time he will get sorted out, hopefully.
Okay, let's look at the fourth scenario. Maybe the more sensible one, but one which could cost, and already has, like he said, has begun to cost Pakistan dearly, the diplomatic and military options that India could be considering. India has already done a few things like blocking the banning of visas, banning artists, keeping or putting Indus Waters Treaty in abeyance. What could that really mean? Because these are diplomatic options right now, downgrading the mission, sending defense attaches back. But there are military options also that India could look at. Surgical strikes, taking out terror launch pads, looking at hitting areas that could hurt Pakistan the most, but there is deniability there because we are looking at terror camps here. And how will that, what will the response of Pakistan be in such a scenario? In all probability, we will see, these are the summer months, so we could see an increase in infiltration. Ankit, if I could come to you, maybe last word from all of you, very quickly. OSINT, are you looking at and picking up more details on infiltration bids that are increasing because we are looking at at summers this time?
I think the highest volume of infiltration that we had to see, we have already seen. Right?
Okay.
The past 18 months have been one of the highest in terms of volume, both from open source point of view and also from intelligence reports. I don't think it is going to continue because of the, of course, because of the what has happened in Pahalgam. One thing that I would like to ask Gaurav is, Gaurav, you said for Pakistan, fragmented Pakistan, but does India want a Pakistan divided in four parts? Will it work for India? Will it work better for us?
Well, a strong Pakistan anyways means they have more resources to bleed you. Baluchistan is not a part of Pakistan, it's illegally occupied. If Baluchistan is free, you know, Pakistan is weakened, it loses a lot of its land, it loses a lot of the resources. If Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, Pashtunistan comes up, it's good for the people of Pashtunistan.
But will it not be a case of 100 militias, you know, roaming around Pakistan?
Ek Nagnath hai, ek Sapnath hai, you deal with them together, you deal with them separately, you have to deal with the threat that comes from them. You know, they're evil, you have to appreciate that after so many decades of dealing or being a victim of Pakistan's state-sponsored radical Islamist terror, and you need to befriend them. Afghanistan, Taliban are today our friends.
What happens to the nukes?
Let me just come in. Look, it is demonstrated in the past that if India does anything as it is happening now, Pakistan gets together. It's not going to be easy to break up Pakistan. At the moment, they are, in many senses, going to be in unison. And I think I'll answer that when you talked of the Indus Water Treaty. That is our Brahmastra in many senses, right? In terms of hitting them hard. Now, there's also a debate whether we should have gone first with that, because the rest is diplomatic pinpricks. We've done that before. Now, what is the disadvantage when you move too quickly on some of these things? Is that who are you hitting? These are the two most populous provinces in Pakistan, which is Punjab and the Sindh.
Yes.
Now, the moment you do that, that population, which could have had a lot of unrest, is going to unite behind Asim Munir. Precisely what he wanted, because he had a lot of dissent. Now, the problem with that is that so far it was a battle for Kashmir, which is territorial, religious, whatever you might call it. Suddenly, it's a battle for your life.
Right.
And that is a different battle, because the moment the Punjabis and the Sindhis over there begin to get angry, they will say, let's do the worst with India. So far, you had two kinds of Pakistan. There was what I would call a jihadi Pakistan, which is the religious right Pakistan, which is what Munir is appealing to. And there is a non-jihadi Pakistan, which is wants a federation, which is what Bajwa represented in terms of a geo-economic shift. you need to appeal to that stratum as
We
well.
need
And
to-
so
yeah.
it is both a war that will be fought in terms of military options.
We-
It'll be fought with diplomatic and other kinds of things with water.
Sure.
But
But
you,
we
you
need to be
bring
strong.
everything it's right. And
You know,
We're
take whatever it is.
completely out of time, gentlemen. We're
If
completely
they
out-
unite, if they unite, you unite. The fact
Absolutely.
remains, you cannot.
We are united.
You cannot do a
India's
sajda.
united, and let's not forget India is
You know,
a strong
you cannot
country.
do a
So,
sajda
okay,
to
a
terror.
united
And that is something
India
that India
is
cannot afford
a
to do.
united India is going to take on a united or disunited Pakistan. But the fact of the matter is that this is not going to be a short-term battle between India and Pakistan. This is going to be a long-drawn one. India would want to see Pakistan pay for what it has done in Pahalgam and more. Thank you so much for joining us here on World Today. Goodbye and take care.